Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
I'm number one fan, Tim.
I would like to talk about the status of higher education in our nation. I went to college, and I went for 5 years. I have a 2-year AA degree, and technically also a 4-year Bachelor's of Science in Law Enforcement. It cost me $23,500. I have zero loan debt. I never used any student loans. I never had any grants or scholarships. I worked my way through college. But I don't do what I went to school to do.
That seems to be the case with a lot of people who go through higher education.
The thing of it is college has become an industry. It's not so much about the purpose of what it's intended for. To educate the workforce, to develop individuals, to replace those that retire in jobs that we still need people to do because they're useful to society. I mean, they still do that. But you've got all kinds of shit like iffy selection practices and minority entrance quotas.
Remedial English for a college freshman.
Or remedial math.
Yeah, give me a break. You should learn that shit in grade school.
You take out all these loans, you rack up tens of thousands of dollars in debt, all so that you can try to get a job. And it used to be you needed some sort of degree, a 2-year degree in your specialty field, which would be a mix of generals and dedicated education for your trade. Then it became, in law enforcement at least, they wanted a bachelor's. Now they're really, in many industries, saying, well, we give first consideration to people with master's degrees because they really put in the work and they stayed in school and they dedicated themselves. And it's 6 to 8 years or less, I guess, if you're fucking incredible. But you get a master's degree, you had to have racked up, depending upon your school, anywhere between $40,000 and $100,000 in debt.
And all that time you're in school, you're not learning any real-world skills.
They can give you all of the book learning, but once you get out there in the field, the practicum, it's completely different. When I went to school to be a cop, it was you learn about being a cop. Your teachers are off-duty cops. Your professors are working in the industry or worked in the industry. Then you had skills, which is your first hands-on attempt at doing some of this stuff in a controlled setting. It's hands-on learning rather than just sitting there taking tests and watching videos and all that shit. Mm-hmm. And you get back some, like MPD and St. Paul PD, they have academies. They reteach you all that shit. You get out on the road, you relearn it.
Yeah, that's another thing I heard people who went through college, same thing. What they were taught, what they paid all this money to be taught, they get in the real world, they actually managed to find a job by a miracle in that field, and it's completely different than what they learned.
So now, I mean, the more education, the better. They say you're more qualified for these jobs, but you get an entry-level position. And I don't know if it's because of the millennial generation mindset of wanting to be at the top of the ladder right away. They don't know how to earn their way. But a lot of people legitimately go to school, bankrupt themselves, get out of school, end up living with their parents, and they have to take any shit job they can get, even if it's not in the related field that they got their degree for, and they get all this debt to try to work off.
That was something that was told to me very early out of high school when I went and got a job doing traffic control. Remember, I told you about that. Mm-hmm. And the boss told me one day, he's like, the problem with your generation, he was pointing, Generation X, is you guys are expecting to have what your parents have right out of school. And he knew I didn't go to college. I was only 19 when I started doing this. I was only 6 weeks out of school when I took a full-time job. And
nice turnaround, by the way.
I was asking him thank you. I was asking him what he meant by that exactly. And he's just like, well, you have to work your way up to that level.
Yeah.
And anything you do, you're going to be entry level. You're going to be making very little money. You still have to learn how to not be in high school. You got to learn what an actual job is. You got to learn how to do that job. You got to learn what life is. And it's a rite of passage. I mean, I look back at what I knew and the work I did and what I earned back then and what I was able to achieve compared to now, there's no way in hell I should have expected to have what I have now back then.
Correct. But a lot of people do. But it's not so much that sense of entitlement that the millennial generation seems to be always lambasted for having or accused of having. That's not what I'm really driving at. It's the cost of college has never been higher, and people go to school for years and years and years, and then they get out, and then they get into the job, and then they get trained on how to do the job. Or they're expected to know everything about the job, and they don't, and nobody wants to take the time. And I'm much more comfortable with the mindset of how it used to be. Instead of going to school for a job that you think is going to be open when you're done with school, and then you get there and all the jobs are taken. When I got out of cop school, it was a bitch of a time to get a cop job.
I remember you telling me about it.
Fucking years. But now, the number of people trying to be cops, way less.
I wonder why.
Go figure. So it's going to be easier for them to get jobs now, the next 10 to 20 graduating classes. I don't think it's going to get any better. But like trade school, you go to trade school, they teach you a trade, you become an apprentice, you start learning on the job, so you've got some education, but you're actually developing hands-on experience, expertise. And I think
eventually become a journeyman, which means you're able to do the work more on your own.
Yeah. Like electricians or plumbers like my old man. My old man got a job in a plumbing shop, and then they sent him to trade school to be a plumber, and he's been a master plumber for years.
Here we go!
But if he would have had to go to school for 7 years to learn how to be a plumber and then start from the bottom and then start building the experience, he would have had all that debt. He never could have had a home, a car, or anything. He'd have been suffocating in debt. And God knows if he would have achieved what he achieved.
Yeah, I think going back to when you were saying to people thinking maybe it's the mentality of a millennial to assume they automatically should have this stuff, it's because they're being told that's what could be. Go to college, get a degree, get a bachelor's degree, get your master's, and you can walk into a job making $100,000 a year.
National American University.
Well, that's
Bullshit.
the thing. The jobs aren't always there.
Well, it's not that. It's just they're not going to give a kid a $100,000 a year job just because he's got his master's degree. You got other people that have been working in that company for as long as you've been in school, if not longer, who already know the job, know the ropes, have made contacts, have proven themselves. They're going to get that job. You're going to get the entry-level job, whether you have a master's degree or don't have it.
Well, it's so money-driven. It's a business.
Well, it wouldn't be so much of a business if the government wasn't constantly increasing the amount of money that they would give to students for, students or to schools for debt relief, student loan access, government student loans. I mean, you know what
yeah.
My words aren't correct, but you know what I'm saying. It's the
federal
government got
funding.
into the school business, the school loan business. Well, now schools can charge more because the government's backing up these loans, giving these kids this money, giving the school this money to give to the kids. That's why the cost has gone up. Has nothing to do with actual education.
Fast facts.
In 2017, Americans are burdened by more student loan debt than ever. I'm reading a news story. You've probably heard the statistics. Americans owe over $1.4 trillion in student loan debt, spread out among about 44 million borrowers. That's about $620 billion more than the total U.S. credit card debt. In fact, the average class of 2016 graduate had $37,172 in student loan debt, up 6% from the last year. So it just keeps going. Why don't we have more jobs where you just show up and then you learn how to do the job? You know how they used to get people to be cops and firefighters? Like, think about when people came back from fighting World War II and they wanted a job. They just said, hey, you got a spot open? Cool. All right, here's the job. Go learn. And maybe that throw shit at the wall and see what sticks and hope he figures it out mentality isn't the safest. But I'm saying a lot of these, just give people a job and teach them how to do it. And if they don't like doing it, they didn't just spend 6 years in college racking up 40 grand in loans or 70 grand in loans to not like what they do. Because I paid $23,500 out of pocket, but I'm not a cop. I don't want to be a cop. I didn't have to take out loans because I stayed at home and suffered for an extra 5 fucking years, 6 technically, to keep the cost of college sustainable. And I was able to save up to buy a car and build up my savings. And I lived like a pauper, but I lived rent-free because my folks said as long as you're at home, you have to be in school or you pay rent.
My parents had the same rule, but I didn't feel like going to college.
Now, they were willing to shell out the money for me to go to college, but I spent it on high school, so then it was up to me. So I knew right there I had to go out and earn it. And to once again quote Jesse Ventura, if you're smart enough to go to college, you're smart enough to figure out how to pay for it.
Yeah.
Of course they are, unless the government's just giving out bad loans left, right, and sideways to get these people to better themselves. You're trying to keep the workforce going, but what if instead of spending billions of dollars of tax money to give to people to go to college, I'm not saying let's go full on Bernie Sanders and college should be free.
That could never happen. It's not actually free.
Right. But you should be able to walk into a job and they should be more willing to train you. This expectation that, oh, you go to college and figure out how to do this, so when you come to me, I don't have to put in any fucking effort to train you or make you any better.
I think that some of the workplaces do have that mentality.
They do.
I do also still think it's, as I said before, they're told that they need to have this college education.
Well,
They probably don't. But then again, if I look at back where I'm employed, and I look at the job openings in different departments of where I'm working, they want 3-year degrees to do that. They wanted a 3-year degree to do something with the payroll. Why?
To learn how to work a payroll system?
It's numbers. It's all on a computer. I think a lot of it does it all on its own. All you do is punch in the numbers from my time card. But that's what they want. They set these ridiculous expectations, but you know full well when they get there, they don't know how the system works around that office, what system it is, the computer program that's used. No matter where you go, you got to get trained. I mean, I had 10 years of traffic control under my belt when I went to go work where I'm currently working. 10 years. I knew traffic control, I knew sign installation, salvaging, I knew road markings, I knew all this stuff. The only thing I didn't know how to do was stripe with a striping truck and plow.
And you learn that hands-on.
I learned that hands-on.
Go fucking figure.
But when I went to go work there, 2 years experience required, this, that, the other. But I still had to learn how they did it. Even though I had all this experience, they did it differently.
I would say it probably doesn't apply to, say, teachers and scientists. Shit like that. Like, you're not just going to walk into a laboratory and be like, teach me how to do biomedics.
In that regard, yes, you're correct.
But
I
we're
guess I'm
talking
also
about
referring to, like, company policies and how they want things done. I mean, a scientist can walk into a lab and be like, okay, this beaker here, I'm going to use this Bunsen burner to do that, and I'm going to take this chemical and separate it.
Right. But you got to know your shit if you're going to be a chemical engineer.
Yeah, and again, that really helps to have a college degree.
But say Neil he went to school for business, and then he went to school for, I think, marketing. And I'm not sure, I don't think he totally finished the degree. Point being is he works with his dad for a company, and they sell computer stuff and software stuff. He learned it hands-on. But why would you ever need to go to school for 4 years to get a bachelor's in marketing to figure out what does and doesn't sell? Can't you just walk around and here's what I like, here's what my friends like, here's what people I know of a different background from me like. Part of ad wizardry is being witty, and they can't teach you how to be funny or to play on words in college.
Or to be a person.
When I graduated college, I took a fucking nap during the diploma ceremony because, one, I didn't want to listen to the goddamn keynote speaker, and two, we were the law enforcement college was the 5th school to get handed their pieces of paper and walk the stage. I had to sit through all these fucking business college people. There were hundreds of them. There were maybe 200 of us in the law enforcement school at absolute max. I think it was really only like 100. It's 2005. 12 years ago, I didn't commit to memory. I was asleep for most of it. I wasn't counting heads. Mm-hmm. But still, the other school, the nursing school, the fucking business school. Why is it that you can't give somebody a job and let them train and then educate? There should be more of a hands-on classroom meets practicum sort of way of doing it.
Yeah.
Rather than this mindset of you just go to school and you spend all this money and you learn all this stuff And hopefully you're cut out for this line of work. Imagine going to school to be an EMT and then you get out there and once you start realizing people are coming to you with their guts hanging out and shit and you can't stomach it and you don't know how to save lives properly.
I actually know somebody who went through that. But it wasn't he couldn't do the work. It's just he couldn't take the inhumanity of it, I guess. You know, people being injured and going to houses and loved ones being dead and all that. He only did it for, I don't even think 9 months. I don't know what he does now, but it certainly isn't what he went to school for.
Read that one. I'm going to let you take the next part here.
There's an entire Wikipedia page about for-profit colleges and huge section listings of all the ones who have shut down over the last 3 years. For-profit colleges shut down, and also lost their federal loan funding. ITT Tech
Closed.
Corinthian College
Closed.
Wright Career College
Never heard of it.
Closed.
Brown Mackey College.
Think I heard of it.
Closed.
I think I've heard of it too. Heritage College.
Closed.
And Sanford Brown College.
Closed.
ITT Tech was a big one.
It was.
They would advertise on TV all the time like, I went to ITT Tech and they helped me get a job and now I'm working in the IT industry and I love my job and it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's the thing. That list of for-profit colleges that closed, I had to scroll down for seconds. Like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 seconds of tiny print. There's so many. And it just goes with this business mindset. These are schools that say they'll help you with job placement. Help you. But you'll end up getting a shitty job. And that's it. The fucking thing doesn't shutter its doors before you're done with your degree. Because all the people that were going to these colleges that were in the middle of degree programs were fucked. Because if you don't have the solid degree, there's no guarantee all your credits transfer because the curriculum could be vastly different because it's designed for a different time set.
That's kind of what happened to Mrs. Number One Fan. The college she went to, can't remember what it was. It was an online course. $30,000 worth of student loan debt for business management. And now the college is shut down.
Closed.
Where do her credits go? The ones that she did make. Poof, they're gone.
Yeah, fucking A. How much did she rack up in debt?
$30,000. We're paying $300 a month for the next 29 years. I'm already a year into payments. Yeah, you know, that's like a new car for her.
Yeah.
Or that's $300 a month I could use to hire a maid to clean our house for us. I mean,
Or
that money's getting pissed away now. No offense, Mrs. Number One Fan, I love you, but I've told you this already.
what if you used it for like in-home healthcare stuff?
Yeah, it's
Somebody
just,
to watch the kids, somebody to help out with homework, shit like that.
yeah, that's just money every month we're forking out, and I'm not seeing any results from it. I know a lot of people, even my cousins, 3 of my cousins, you know, there's a set of twins and then their younger brother, they all went to U of M. I don't know what they paid, because, you know, their dad paid for it all, but none of them do what they studied. And I know 2 of them went back to college like 3 years later to try to learn something else.
Fucking Christ.
And I know a lot of my friends have done the same fucking thing, and they're still not doing whatever it is they were doing.
Mamma mia!
A lot of it
What
has
they
to
were
do with the
aiming
fact
for.
that by the time you get done with school, the job market's changed or dried up.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are trying to get into computers and shit, and my brother's in that, and I kept saying, computer techs are a dime a dozen. And it changes so fast, like you said, it just, you can't keep up with it. So I've been telling people, go do a trade. You know, I do a very simple job, but it provides for my family of 6.
And you've got good benefits.
I got great benefits.
And I really wish I would have gone and either followed in my dad's footsteps as a plumber or gone to be an electrician. One thing I think might be interesting would be working with fiber wire and security systems and fire alarms. Those guys make pretty decent money. They don't necessarily have to worry about their boss breathing down their neck. It's, here's the location, here's the job, do the work. You either do it right or you don't do it right.
Yeah, if you don't do it right, they don't employ you, or they try to get you better training. Like, here, go work with this guy. He does a really good job. Go see what he does.
Where I work right now, it's the Wild West of training. They just bring in new people, and they just let them sit with. They have certain people they like them to train with, but some nights it don't shake out that way. So they're just with whomever, and we hate to fucking train. So now they're doing a program where they're going to pay people an extra $1 an hour if they're doing a training shift with a newbie.
Oh, I wish that was where I work, because I actually do a fair amount of training in of people. Can I say the company names? I guess it doesn't really matter. No, okay. Well, the first place,
Oh, the sign company?
the sign company, that
Go
one.
nuts.
Okay, so Northern Track Supply is where I first worked. Worked there for 6 years. Every year we had seasonals. I trained them in. I trained them how to do furniture and install, because that was kind of my specialty. And then I would teach them what I did know of traffic control, but there was, other guys that knew more than me. When I worked at quality, I was the new guy there. Everyone else there had been there a few years, and they knew their shit. So I actually kind of learned from them a little bit. And then when we started to do furniture and install there, because originally just traffic control, I knew how to do it already. No one else did. So I took underneath my wing a couple of kids and taught them how to do it. And where I'm working now, we've had 3 new people in the last few years, and I've kind of had a hand in training them. I'm not going to say I've trained them by myself. I've trained them, and they're doing real well. And I actually kind of like training people.
It gives you a chance to... I know where I work, they don't like when I train people. It seems, because they don't have me do it very often. But what they don't realize is they base that off of whether or not they like me and my opinions, not how good at my job am I. Because I am one of the fastest and most proficient people at a number of things we do, especially data entry and taking care of the medication. I'm fucking awesome at that. Unfortunately, they want you to have some sort of partial nursing degree to go deal with meds at an old folks home. But I've been passing pills and knowing about this shit for 10 years. I'm not saying I'm trying to be an armchair pharmacist, but still, there's been all kinds of different shit going on that I've learned that I could apply to other jobs. But in terms of people we know and what they did for college and if they're doing it or not, JD got a 2-year degree and spent $20,000 to become a cop. He's a cop.
Ding, 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 ding.
My friend's wife, Alyssa, has an AAS degree. She spent $20,000 because a lot of it was through PSEO, meaning that she got most of her college credits paid for by the high school because she was such a straight A student.
Okay.
She does stuff with X-rays.
Oh, okay.
She makes good money. My friend Nani, $4,000 in tuition and whatever splurt is, $7,000 for splurt. I don't know. He got $3,000 in scholarships. He has no debt because he saved for a while. He's getting a degree in law enforcement and wildlife management, and he's well on his way to working for the DNR.
Cool.
Whereas I went to school to be a cop. I'm not a cop. Another guy I went to high school with ended up going to the same school as I did to be a cop. He's also not a cop. He works in an electrical shop. He's not an electrician as far as I know. They sell parts and do ordering and shit like that. But I'm sure that Andy probably had $20,000 for the cost of college, just like me. But then we're talking about from 2000 to 2005.
Yeah.
Because he graduated the same year as me and graduated college the same time as me. My friend little Lindsay, she's in school for IT stuff now, and she has no debt because it's through her employer. But it's IT stuff, so it's a nightmare trying to learn all this new shit.
And by the time she's done, it'll change.
Every year it'll change. Every semester it'll change. Our friend Emily, our friend Jay's mom, the whole family moved to Phoenix 2 months ago. 7 years on and off in a private college. She never got a degree. $40,000 in loans.
Oof.
I don't have the whole story on that, but it may have something to do with the kids. Graham of It Radio, no debt.
Awesome.
I don't know what he got his degree in. He doesn't have an IT degree. He's trying to get IT jobs, but he had grants and scholarships and his parents planned ahead. Nurse Ashley is in fact a nurse, but not in a hospital nurse. She's a home health care nurse. She's worked in nursing homes. $24,000 for the nursing degree, $10,000 for generals and other classes. My friend Other Neil, aka Steiny, he had worked in retail and as a furniture mover for many, many years. And then 3-4 years ago, he went back to school and got a degree to be an X-ray tech. $19,000 in loans. He was not making the kind of money to sustain that. But now he's, chipping away at it. Reese Hartfeld went to IPR, Institute of Production and Recording.
Okay.
$48,000 for an audio engineering degree that he never finished because he dropped out.
Oh.
$48,000.
He owes all that.
Yes.
See, that's why it's like you really should try to finish. I mean, I can understand people flunking out. That shit's hard. But dropping out, go back. Make that money worthwhile.
He knows what he's doing. He knows how to work the boards. He could go and do production, and he could be an engineer for helping people record music. And if he magically, works with the right artist that catches fire and people go, oh, I'm attributing it to his sound, suddenly he's famous. That happens all the fucking time. You go into the studio, you watch somebody do it, an engineer shows you some stuff. They didn't have IPR back in the day. You think anybody that was helping Prince make music back in the 70s and 80s went to college for 7 fucking years to know how to make the boards sound good?
No, that was trial and error.
Yeah, there's a lot of experimentation, and people that knew about technology turned them on to new shit, and then they did it that way. We've established you have no degree.
No degree.
But you have no loans.
No loans.
You have 4 kids.
4 kids.
And a mortgage.
And
you're helping the wife pay down her loans, which I assume she's paying down her loans.
Yep. And we have 2 nice cars, a boat, 2 motorcycles.
Okay, you are living, you're living essentially the American dream because you have a home, you have vehicles, you have health care, and you have a family.
Mm-hmm.
All the shit that they tell you should have and want. And you did it without a degree. It's still doable, and more industries need to adapt and be willing to take people. This whole, you need to have a bachelor's or a master's. JD is a cop on a 2-year degree. Fuck, I went and got a bachelor's because at the time they said you couldn't get a job without a bachelor's degree.
You can go get ASE certified for car mechanics.
Yeah.
You can go get that done in like 2 years, and any dealership or even small shop mechanic will hire you at $25 an hour.
That's what Neil went to school for. I don't know if he finished it, but he did a lot of training at Hennepin Tech to work on cars. But he did it because he wanted to work on his cars, and he knew it would help him out, and maybe it could turn into a job, and he had some jobs. But he works with his dad, and one day his dad's going to retire here soon. I don't know if he's going to stick with it. I don't know if he's going to go back to school. But you shouldn't have to bankrupt the next 20 fucking years of your life and have to live hand to mouth just to get the necessary, quote, skills from higher learning to go out and get a job or to try to get a job that might not be there when you get out.
I think they need to restructure the schooling, too. Like that one girl in there with the 10,000, Nurse Ashley?
Yeah.
$10,000 for doing her generals. I wish more colleges were more specifically kind of like technical colleges. There's some generals, but it's a very small portion of it. They spend most of that hands-on in the mechanics garage, in the lab, in the boiler, whatever the fuck, learning how to actually do it.
Well, that was my argument when I started at Anoka Ramsey Community College, is I pitched a fit about all these dumb classes I had to take when I wanted to be a cop. I'm like, why the fuck can't they just let me go for all the cop classes? Like, why do I have to take psychology, sociology, speech? What the fuck is speech going to teach me? I know how to talk to people, and I'll hone my skills of communication out there on the street. Why do you got to give me a book that's $60? I'm going to sell back to you for $4 to teach me how to read people's nonverbal cues. That's fucking dumb. And it's a bunch of high school kids going there on PSEO. So, I mean, you either take it seriously or you don't. And a lot of people there didn't. I want to get right to that. If you didn't have to stay in school for so long, and you're talking about restructuring the curriculum, what if you just went to school for what you wanted to do? It would halve the amount of time you spend in college trying to get a job.
I would have actually gone to college if that were the case. Because in high school, I was really into cabinet making and woodworking and stuff like that. I wanted to build furniture. I wanted to learn how to frame houses. I wanted to learn how to do that stuff. I wanted to go and build a shed. I really wanted to go do all that shit. Century College was a good option. There was another one. Can't remember what it was now. It was in the West Metro. And me and my buddy Steve, we went and looked at everything. We were looking at the pamphlets and all that. Like, I don't want to take English. I don't want to take social studies, math. All these other classes I didn't want to take.
I took World War II.
I'm done.
And I actually didn't study an entire semester. I've never flunked a course until then. I got an F. I got an F because I didn't know my World War II history, and I thought I'd just bullshit my way through. Yeah, I took it again, and I got an A.
World War II is not difficult.
Well, the difference being that the first time I took it, I had this Ukrainian woman as my teacher. And I took it again a year and a half later, and I had this like fucking 78-year-old professor that was this white dude that actually was in the war.
Oh.
And we watched more movies. But it was a much different, maybe it was all the teacher, I don't know. But I took rock and roll history because you have to have all these random generals to fill out all your credits.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, it's becoming a business, not an actual attempt to train our future workers.
It's bullshit.
Absolute bullshit.
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.